Hi there. Welcome to the fourth episode of Brain Power. This series is designed to help you to improve your brain power. We have spoken about 10 times wise in our first episode, the real mind, and then the muddled mind. Today, we're going to look at the power crisis. There are certain things that we do that causes the real power to our brain not to be there in an uninterrupted sense. Now, to recap of what we did with our last episode, we need to go to the 14 frontal lobe hits that really can make you either fly or scratch like a chicken. The first one we looked at was a lack of water. That really is a frontal lobe hit. And then a raised carbon dioxide level in your system. And the third one was poor blood flow. And then nutrition, poor nutrition. Many times we've got big decorated tables with a very little nutritional value in our meals. Then we looked at drugs, and this is illegal and legal drugs. We also looked at sexual arousal outside of marriage. Hypnosis is another frontal lobe hit. We also saw that the lack of abstract thinking is a frontal lobe hit. Going against your conscience, knowing that you shouldn't do something but you do it, that could actually cause a frontal lobe compromise. And then low carbohydrate diet. Very, very against what society today believe, that you should have a low carb diet. Then television is a frontal lobe hit. And so is music. And here it's not just music per se. There's good music, but this is the music that really bypasses the frontal lobe action and the cognitive sensitivity and goes to the limbic system straight away. That is not the best for your frontal lobe. And then cell phones. Cell phones is really a high-risk commodity. We've gotten so used to it, but it's got a physical risk. And then the last one is a lack of scriptural study. This is something very, very profound. I've seen it with my grandfather that lived a good age up to 94, and he's... I remember phoning him one Sunday morning asking, "Grandpa, what you doing today?" And he said to me, "No, I'm going to visit the old people at the old age home." Now remember, he's 94. And I had a bit of a smile and I said, "Grandpa, now how old is the people you're going to visit?" He says, "No, the one is 67 and the other one is 71. At this time, he's 94. What was so profound is right up to his last, he studied his Bible every day. He could tell you where a verse is if you would ask him, "Where is this verse, Opa?" He will give you the verse. Really profound. During his life, 94 years, he studied his Bible on a daily basis, something that we could really think of. Now, the power crisis to our brain. I want to start with a very interesting little verse. Find in Isaiah 55 verse 2. And let's look at this together. "Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which is not satisfying? Listen diligently to me, and eat what is good, and delight yourself in good food." I love the way Scripture really encourages us to go to the original diet that would make a big difference when it comes to our brain capacity and our brain power. Now, there's some facts on the brain that we really want to share again at this time. And the one is, your brain is the most energy-consuming part of your body. Our brains really uses up to a quarter of the energy that goes to the body. 25% of the glucose goes to the brain. That means 4.8 grams of glucose per hour goes to the brain to help it to work optimally. Some physiology that we need to know is that the body can convert carbohydrates and proteins and fats, all of that, into energy. But the brain can only store 2 minutes of supply of glucose. It really needs glucose all the time, but it can only store up to 2 minutes supply. So the brain uses only carbohydrates, but it must be unrefined carbohydrates. The brain needs a steady glucose supply. And if I can compare this with a computer, you need an uninterrupted power supply to your computer to make it work optimally. Let's talk about blood sugar. Let's talk about glucose that our brain needs, that all our cells need. We want to have our blood sugar level in a normal range between 6 and 2.9. We don't want it to be lower than 2.9. Yeah, it can go up to 2.6, but not lower than that. And then up to 6, not higher than 6. Now, if we would have a good, solid breakfast in the morning, say about 7:30, we'll see a blood sugar level that would look something like this. It would go up and have a nice curve and slowly come down. You could see by midday, there's still no dumps, there's no crashes at the bottom. But just look at the picture of somebody that would not have a breakfast. You would see the blood sugar level would go down, it would actually crash at the bottom, it would go up fast because normally I would be at work or at varsity or school and I would have a snack. It would have empty kilojoules in it. It would shoot this blood sugar level up, and then it would go to the top, many times overshooting, and then crashing at the bottom. And every time I feel weak, I have another fix. I have another snack, and it would just shoot it up, and the snack could be, a donut or a pie or a packet of chips or whatever I would have. It would just shoot it up, and it would come down crashing again. Now, that would mean that the inside of my arteries would become sticky like flypaper. A high blood sugar level really dictates that. And this means the red blood cells, they would stick together. Now, this got a very, very profound effect because there's little capillaries where the red blood cells can only go in one by one. When they get sticky and they stick to each other, they actually can't get through to the capillaries. And that's what's in my brain. That's what's in my cells. Really, the food, the glucose can't get there. And this has a profound result. You would have a shortage of oxygen and a shortage of glucose. This would lead then to tiredness. No wonder some people by 10 o'clock, 9, 10, 11 in the morning, they feel very, very tired. Blood sugar levels have raised, came down, crashed at the bottom, and then normally we try and fix this by eating something in between the meals. Well, we feel sleepy because our blood sugar levels are not stable. It would cause poor concentration. If I don't have, and this is really what I need, is a slow release energy level. And I would get this out of high fiber, unrefined foods. We don't need our blood sugar levels to come crashing down below 2.9 and then overshooting above 6 points. It has a profound effect on our brain function. Let me tell you what happens. Every time it overshoots or crashes at the bottom, when it comes back to the normal, it takes 45 to 75 minutes before it will work optimally again. Now, just imagine if you have a crash, you have a fix, it goes in the normal, before the time it overshoots again and it comes crashing down. Some people's brains never work optimally because in that period of 45 to 75 minutes, it is overshoot, undershoot again. And this whole process goes on day by day. There is just no real fix. Now, where does blood sugar come from? Where do we get our blood sugar from? Well, number one, our brain really gets it from carbohydrates. Starches like potatoes or things like brown rice. You see, brown rice got the fiber on the outside still. It's got the germ inside as well. It's whole. It would give me a good carbohydrate. Whole grain pastas, that is a good starch to have. Things like legumes and oats and fruit sugars. Once again, it's not refined. I would have the apple. I would have the banana. The sugar that's in there with the fiber will give me that slow release energy level that I need. We also get sugars, carbohydrates in vegetables. Believe it or not, there's a lot of vegetables. Well, most of the vegetables have sugars in them. And this is where our body gets the glucose to really operate the way it should. We could also get it in more concentrated formats of carbohydrates. That's in honey or dates. And when you look at honey or dates, it really shows you why this is better. You can't take a tablespoon and just dump it into honey and take a mouthful and then dump it again and take a mouthful. Very soon you're going to have this gagging effect where, everything pulls together. Same with dates. You can't just have the one date after the other. Naturally, God has created it in such a way that it would give you that effect where you say, okay, I've had enough. Whereas with any refined sugar, there's just no stop to it. You just have more and just have more. It's one slab and you would actually go to a next slab. There's no real gagging effect to it. Now, I want to really make it clear that when we make a decision with regards to what foods we would have, that it's our choice. Really, it's your choice. Nobody can dictate to you, you shouldn't have this or don't have this or you should have that. It is really your choice. But let me just give you some background so that we can make good choices. When we look at refined foods, it's not only fast foods, but refined foods at large. We find that the nutrients has been taken out. We also find that the roughage is taken out. And immediately this would cause it to shoot up in blood sugar level, and it would then crash down because there's nothing that holds it. There's no fiber that holds it. When we look at junk food, fast foods, it causes a blood sugar level to just rise, rapidly just rise up. And that really does cause a big challenge. Whole foods have all the nutrients needed to digest the food. It's got extra nutrients that we really need. This is why it's good to have a variety and not just one sort of food every day. It means the roughage is still there and it slows down this digestive process so that we have that nice curve and not the shooting up and crashing down at the bottom. And when we look at this wheat kernel, we see there's bran on the outside. We see there's germ, very important part, and then there's the endosperm. Now the food industry has become very revolutionized. What it does is, the first thing, it takes the bran off because somehow we want it white. So we take the bran off, and the first thing that they do after that is take the germ out. Now the germ needs to be taken out because we want it to give it shelf life. You cannot have the germ there and expect that it would keep on the shelf. So we take that out, and then we would even add some preservative to give it longer life shelf. It's about money nowadays. It's not about food. Now, I want to ask you a question. And this is especially for South Africa. South Africa would appreciate this. When did we have a democratic, did we start a democratic way of operating in this country? Well, when I talk to many audiences, some would say to me, well, apartheid has never ended. And I would say, how come? They say, no, there's still a big problem. We now, more than 20 years later, it's 94, we now, many years later, there's still a problem. I want to make a statement, and especially to South Africans, and I want to say, guys, you are dictating an apartheid system yourself, because, we go for this white stuff. It's white bread. It is white rice. It is white flour. It is white sugar. Let me give you an example. We have choices in life. This is white pasta, but there is whole grain pasta, not much different. But the grain is still in there. The fiber is still in there. This one is going to keep my blood sugar levels. This one is going to help my blood sugar levels to spike. Well, it's a small choice. We look at sugars. There's different sugars, and some people say, okay, now I'm going for that brown sugar. That is the more healthier one. The fact is, if you would take this brown sugar and take a teaspoon of that and put it in water and stir it, you would find the water would become blurry, and the white little crystals will be there at the bottom of the glass. So it's really caramel coated. This one is molasses coated. This is the softer one. Yeah, but it's really not. It's refined. We don't need refined stuff. We need to move away from the white stuff. Look at this bread. There's no fiber in it. Now, any white bread, the same thing. This is what we can do. I'm saying to myself, I want something that would really last, that would give me a good energy level for the whole day. If I have enough time, I would press this in the size of a cricket ball. And you know what? I need solid food. This is really not food. Look at that. It's really nothing at the end of the day. It's a small little ball, mostly in the germ. The bran is out, the germ is out. So what really is needed in the cell is not in this bread. It's not there. There's a lot of additives as well that's not good for me. This is not food. This is good for constipation. It's not good food. There is no nutritional value in it. Compare that with a good bread like this. I can squash this bread. I can try to squash it. I'm going to go nowhere. I would probably eat that whole bread and still feel hungry. I would have 2 slices of this bread. And when we look at prices today, this would more or less cost the same. When you bake it yourself, really the best value for money that you could think of. When we go for the unrefined things, we really are doing ourselves a great, great favor. Let's look at digestion for a moment. This starches we're talking about is really changed to sugars. And you can go and test this. It's really profound. I could take a slice of bread here, dry with nothing on it, and I can chew it. And within a few chews, I would start tasting sweet. It's where the sugar that's in the carbohydrates, or the carbohydrates, it's changed to sugar, and that digestion really starts right here in my mouth. So carbohydrates, very important. I need to chew it well because the digestion starts right here in my mouth. When digestion is completed, then the starch becomes glucose in the bloodstream. I need the sugar to be in my blood or in my cell. And this is the question that we need to sort out in our own minds. We want it really to go into the cell. We want our blood sugar to go into the cell and not just rise into our arteries. When I do exercise or I work with my brain as I normally do, I need blood sugar to be in the cells. That's where it's needed. Now, I want to give you some warning signs of those things that would show you that you are not doing as well as you think you are. If you are persistent tired, it's a warning sign that there's something wrong. If your memory or your concentration is poor, it's a warning sign that there's something wrong with your sugar levels. You need caffeine to get going in the morning. That's a problem. Or your blood pressure is 130/90 or above that. We set ourselves norms of where it could be, and it's not too bad. But when we get here, guys, it's not good. We also know that for the waistline for men, it should And it's a warning sign when it's between that 94, 102 centimeters for men and above that. For ladies, 84 to 88 centimeters. Now, I know you're going to get your measuring apparatus and go and measure yourself to see, where you are. But this is a warning sign. If it's more than that, go and do something about it. If you're apple-shaped, your body's apple-shaped, and there's fat around your waist, that's a warning sign. You are heading for a problem. Your HDL cholesterol, that's now your good cholesterol, is lower than 1 for men and lower than 1.3 for women. That's a warning sign. It shouldn't be as low as that. Your LDL, that's your bad cholesterol. That's your triglycerides. It shouldn't be bigger than 1.7. It should be lower than that. Blood glucose level, we don't want it above 6. Your homocysteine levels, we don't want to see it above 6 levels. We need it lower than that. That would indicate that your system is doing well. Please, if we look at more than one of these in our bodies and they are raised, we can definitely know that there's a big problem. You see, all of these that we mentioned is associated with an unstable blood sugar level. It means we don't have a nice stable curved blood sugar level in our systems, and that makes our brain really have a hard time. Our brain is very sensitive. It's going to really get hammering if we don't look at that. There's new symptoms that is closely associated with sugar levels. Things that are diagnosed today that wasn't diagnosed 10 years back, like metabolic syndrome, syndrome X, and even hypoglycemia. Many of these are now diagnosed today because of blood sugar levels. Now, the question is there anything good about sugar? Is there anything good about sugar? And many people ask that question. Well, let me tell you, if I have refined sugars and carbohydrates, number one, it's going to reduce my intelligence by, and that's the difference between a high and a low user. This is scary. Remember, I challenged you and I said you can pick up your IQ levels with 25 IQ points. Well, this is one of the research studies that we can use to really determine this. Another one is it causes aggressive behavior. If I'm using largely refined sugar and carbohydrates, it's going to cause aggressive behavior. Anxiety is caused by this. Hyperactivity and attention deficit disorders. This is really closely connected to refined sugar and carbohydrates. Depression is caused by this. Eating disorders, the anorexia and bulimia thing, really it's closely connected to that. Fatigue, constant fatigue. That is learning difficulties. Fibromyalgia, all of them are really closely connected to this problem. Now, not only on the brain does it have a big impact. If we look at the sugar and its reaction on our immune system, let me share this graph with you. If I have no sugar level, or if I have no sugar in my diet, my little white blood cells, that really is like little Pac-Man, it would actually eat up 14 bacteria and then die. Now, if I have in my diet 6, and this is in a 24-hour cycle, 6 teaspoons of sugar, it means that my white blood cell will only be able to gobble up 10 bacteria and then die. That means a 25% less productivity. If I have 12 teaspoons of sugar in my diet, it will come down to 5.5 times and then it would die. If I have 18 teaspoons, 2 times. So it's whop, whop, dead. If I have 24 teaspoons of sugar, it would just go whop, dead, whop, dead. 92% less productivity. Now people say, hey, how would I get 24 teaspoons of sugar in a day? People, it's so easy. Americans on the average per day, 2 to 3-year-olds have 14 teaspoons per day. Just imagine what the white blood cells and white blood cell action looks like. 45-year-olds, 17 teaspoons a day. That's the average. And I always say, at least here in Africa, we're different. No. South Africa is worse. We're worse off. We use more than that. Now, large amounts of sugar in the diet have been demonstrated to impair frontal lobe function in school-age children. If I have this refined sugars, I could know that my children's not going to do as well as they should. We use it also as a reward system. We unknowingly spike our children. We use refined sugars, and caffeine does the same thing. Tea, coffee, chocolates. It's a blood sugar fix, and we actually spike ourselves. Nicotine does the same thing. It shoots up, crashes. I need another cigarette. It shoots up, it crashes. Same thing. Alcohol does the same thing. Drugs, illegal and legal, does the same thing. People, just looking behind our brains, our immune system is in trouble. Here is a picture of macrophages attacking a cancer tumor. If I have these foods in my diet, I'm suppressing not only my brain function, but even my immunity. Blood sugar problems is very simple to understand. It's about poor lifestyle. The cause, and it could be cured by that. When I have a good balanced lifestyle, it would cure the problem. It would help me a lot. Now, Psalms 103 verse 5 is profound. And we've looked at this, and we're going to look at it again. Who satisfies their mouth with good things? Who does that? And David said, he's trying to say, God, you're so good. What happens when I do satisfy my mouth with good things? Your youth will be renewed like that of an eagle's. My prayer is that you would fly rather than scratch like a chicken. We're going to look at the power supply to our brain when we get to the next episode. This is really a crisis that we are in, but there's hope. There's hope. With our next episode, we're going to look at how can we really keep our blood sugar levels stable and nice, curving, slow release energy levels so that we can give the best of our brain and we can give the best service to God. Stay good until we see at our next episode. God bless.